Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So some big fun here in Pennsylvania. And look, not far from where I'm sitting, Fulton County, Pennsylvania. A county that went overwhelmingly for the former guy in the last election. And by overwhelmingly, I mean 85%. 85% of the people in Fulton County voted for Trump. And what their county commissioners and what their leadership in that county decided was a good idea was to hand over their voting machines in some weird kind of unofficial audit. And now the Secretary of State, Veronica DeGraffenreid, I can't say her name right, DeGraffenreid, she's decertified those machines. And now that county, very small county, going to have to buy new ones. And the Republicans are upset about it. And I'm going, why would you have chosen that county to give those machines away? It makes no sense unless there was some voter fraud that went on in there, because all of the voter fraud in this state so far that we found, all Republicans. So just kind of a thought, something to look at. Now, the New York Times has reported that there's an open letter that's gone out to the U.S. Senate from 31 former Senate chiefs of staff. They are urging a reform or repeal of the filibuster. They say that we urge the Senate to choose progress over a procedural rule that has outlived its usefulness. And this seems to be the big call, something that I've said that I'm now in favor of. We need to get some progress. We need to get something done. And maybe this is how we do it. And here to talk a little bit about where we are on the voter front, I've asked Sina Namazi to come talk with us. Sina is the national co-chair of United Students for America, their website, votersoftomorrow.org. Sina, thanks for taking time for us.
Thank you so much for having me today, Rick.
So we're seeing this story coming out that Joe Biden's not doing enough. The administration's not doing enough to push the voting rights bill or the John Lewis bill. I'm curious, where do you guys stand? Where do you guys come down on what's going on?
Sure. Well, to start with that, voting rights is the bedrock of our democracy. Without voting rights, there is nothing else. And that is why it is the most crucial thing that we can dedicate our time to right now. To make something clear, if your vote didn't matter, they wouldn't be trying so hard to take it away. Our vote is our voice and vice versa. So right now we're so focused on just getting a lot of student voices, not only together, but pushing to register across the country. We're seeing so many voter registration laws or voter suppression laws passing, especially in a lot of the southern state legislatures. And our generation is really just focused on putting hope over fear, unity over division, country over party, and doing anything that we can to just get a lot of young people out there and to vote like crazy, because the future of our democracy depends on it.
No, we absolutely need your generation to clean up the mess that my generation helped the generation before me create. We've got a lot to do in a very short period of time. But again, we seem to have this view, especially by those on the right, that voting is a privilege. It's not a right. In fact, there was just a Pew Research poll that came out, I guess it was yesterday, that shows that amazingly, 2/3 of Republicans think that voting is a privilege that you can limit and not a fundamental right. And to me, that's frightening.
Yeah, I think the problem with a lot of people in office today is they care more about staying in power than they actually do about serving the will of the people, which is why they're trying to silence a lot of voters out there. And I'm telling you, our generation will do whatever it takes to fight that fight. Freedom and democracy aren't free. And obviously, it's being taken for granted in our past. But we haven't seen this much unity and division, I don't think, since the Civil War. And I mean, if this is the cause that's going to define our generation, then so be it. But we're not going to stop fighting until we show that democracy is the bedrock, and we're not going to lose that fight.
What do you say to the person, Sina, who goes, you know what, let's take the voter ID thing. Which I've been arguing for a long time, is inevitable. I think we've lost the messaging on it. But what do you say, though? What's the big deal about having a photo ID?
Wait, could you phrase your question a little better? Sorry,
there are a number of folks out there who think, something as simple as having a photo ID to vote. What's
Yeah.
the big deal about everyone having a photo ID?
Well, I mean, the whole part of it is that it limits people because they purposely make it difficult to get a photo ID in some places, in some of the states. So, for example, I still haven't gotten my voter registration card in Texas, and I keep on pushing for it. And if there were an election around the corner, I would have trouble getting registered to vote. And it's different in Texas than it is in Maryland, where I used to live. The whole point of the voter ID law is that it makes it more difficult for Black and brown communities to get it because there are just more limits in those areas. And especially in poorer areas as well, it's so much harder to get an ID. And it also requires taking off of work and getting on the bus to get your ID, which isn't as convenient as maybe a more wealthy person who can, take the day off or drive. So there are a lot of little things under the radar that are working towards limiting voting that the voter ID kind of symbolizes.
Yeah, because we've seen states across the country, and this is not new. Pennsylvania tried it back in 2011, and it got thrown out in 2012, fortunately. But the messaging for most people, and a lot of Democrats as well, is, what's the big deal? And I've often argued that, maybe one of the things we should mandate it when these laws get passed is make sure that the state is responsible for getting people the documents that they need to be able to register, and making it much easier instead of having, as you've said, these incredible barriers for people to get to the elections office that may be only open the second Tuesday of the month for 45 minutes.
Absolutely.
You make it more accessible and more able to get people what they need so that they can do it. That hasn't
just
happened.
to add on your point, there's no coincidence. I mean, Joe Biden won the election. Georgia and Arizona flipped blue, and now all of a sudden there are these very suppressive voter laws. It's as if they're trying to limit Democrats and some other candidates from winning. It's pretty obvious, and it's a problem, obviously, because as I said at the beginning of our time, that democracy is the bedrock of our nation, of the United States of America. If there's no democracy, there's nothing else. So limiting the will of the people is limiting what our country is about.
And voting is that fundamental building block of the entire thing. If you can't trust what's coming out of the ballot box, then all of it crumbles, which is why, again, I think we do need to have some bit of confidence in what comes out. And it's weird because, the former guy has done everything in his power to discredit what has come out of the ballot box, and yet you still find places like in Arizona and like in Michigan where you've got Republicans who are coming out and say we didn't find anything. It isn't. There's no there. Just like here in Fulton County, Pennsylvania, there was nothing to find, yet they went and they ended up screwing themselves over.
Yeah, and I mean, Republicans also won, as well. It's not like Democrats won every single seat in the country. Like, Republicans won, so I don't really see how you could say half of a ballot was rigged when other members of your party have won. So it is just, I think a lot of rhetoric, obviously. I mean, I hope it doesn't work. It's troubling, but we're not going to stop at that. We're going to keep going, and we're going to keep making sure, and obviously we're focused on young people. We're going to make sure that we turn out a lot of young people in 2022.
From your lips, because you need it. Because 2022 is really an important year, especially where I'm at in Pennsylvania, and I'm hoping that young people come out in huge numbers. But here's the thing: Republicans trying to stop people from voting is not new. You go back to 1980 when Paul Weyrich was addressing 20,000 Baptist ministers and asked the question, who wants everybody to vote? He goes, I don't want everyone to vote. Our power goes down as the voting populace goes up. So they knew back then, you suppress those people from voting, whoever those people are, and increase your numbers, you got a better chance. And you go to 2000, when they kicked a bunch of people off the voting rolls in 2000 for voting while black, 2004, the caging stuff. Every time you turn around, they're figuring out how to create a new mechanism to make sure we can't vote.
Absolutely. And I want all the viewers out there to know that history repeats itself. After the 15th Amendment was ratified, a lot of African-American men were winning office, and that's why poll taxes and literacy tests were implemented and other suppressive voting laws. I mean, this is not anything new. I mean, the term is coined Jim Crow 2.0, because if not slavery, if not police brutality, it's limiting someone's right to the ballot box. And like our democracy is in trouble. Like I want everyone to know that democracy is fragile. And if we don't take care of it and protect it, it is very easy to lose it. Because at this stage right now, the people in elected office are supposed to be working for the people. But right now it's the other way around. And that's not how it's supposed to work.
No, I'm with you. Now, tell me about United Students for America. Tell me about the organization you guys. This is a relatively new group, right?
Yeah. So the original group is Voters of Tomorrow. So United Students of America is kind of is the child of Voters of Tomorrow. Voters of Tomorrow was an organization started in 2019 by Santiago Mayer. He's the director of it. He's been running it, an amazing job. He's a 19-year-old immigrant from Mexico. And after the 2018 midterms, he realized that there was a lot of disconnect between younger people and elections in general. And I will say that I think a big part of elections is people really rely on young people to turn out and kind of like bolster a lot of the turnout. But I also do realize that there are a lot of disconnects in the resources and the attention provided on the younger generation. So he thought that it would be a great project to kind of build that or bridge that gap, bridge that divide. So USFA, United Students for America, is an organization that I, along with 3 other students under his overwatch from Voters of Tomorrow, started right in, I believe it was March or April of 2021. So right after the election, all of the founders worked for the Biden campaign. We worked on the virtual campaign and led different chapters. So I, for example, led DMV, Students for Biden, DC, Maryland, Virginia, and was also on the Biden Student Leadership Council. And we all found how effective the grassroots organizing was among students across the country that we hadn't even met, but we were all working virtually. And we said, this really worked for 2020. And we actually brought that same network and we implemented the organizing in Georgia for the runoff. And we saw it work very well. We had students from all across the country, not only phone banking and helping people register to vote, but getting them information and getting them to the polls, and turnout was great and everything. And we said, you know what, we got to do this for 2022. And we have basically a national organization, which is what I sit on with 3 other students. And we basically provide resources in a decentralized manner to students running different groups in swing states across the country, from Texas, Missouri, Florida, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Iowa, Ohio, you name it. And right now they're just focused on civic engagement, so registering voters and such. But once there are pro-democracy candidates on the ballot, we will be doing work to get them elected.
Because, the frame now is coming around is we're not going to get the Voting Rights Act passed through probably. I'm hoping we get something. Probably not going to get the John Lewis Act. I'm, again, hopeful, not holding my breath. The frame, though, has been coming around. Well, we're just going to have to out-organize them. We're just going to have to pull another rabbit out of another hat. And look, it's part of what you guys are doing, but you can only go to that well so often. And in a non-presidential year, it is much harder to do.
Yeah, it is definitely a lot harder to do. But I guess the messaging that we really have to use is that if we don't do it now, we might not see our healthy democracy ever again. It really is that serious. I want people to understand, like, democracy is on the line. Like 2020 was probably one of the most consequential elections of our nation's history. And 2022 is right there now because we're seeing voter suppression across the country. So we are really going to have to drive the vote out. But you know what? Like, we're going to do it. I mean, Stacey Abrams did it in Georgia. Everyone's following her lead. She knows what she's doing, and she's really advising everyone else in there. And credit to all the grassroots organizers who were doing it in 2020. But we're gonna need to multiply that for 2022. But we're gonna do it. I mean, we're not gonna watch our democracy crumble. We're gonna fight the good fight. And
you're gonna have to, and you're gonna have to out organize, even just to stay where you are, because as we talked about earlier, there are 30 laws having been passed across this country, putting restrictions on people being able to vote. Whether you agree with voter ID, whether you agree with signature verifications or disagree, they're still in place, and you're still going to have to figure out how to get over those hurdles.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to figure it out. I mean, young people are not going to let democracy die in darkness. And I know that we are in a time of great disunity, but we're going to keep fighting because that's what this country is about. America is always in the fight for a better opportunity, for more progress. And we're happy to take on that fight, whatever it means.
I love the fact that you're very positive in this, because I have people who are, they're just, oh my God, this is the end of the world. It's all horrible. It's all bad. And the mindset is all negative. Because one of the things I've said is you've got to wake up, you got to put your pants on, get your shoes on, you got to get out in the street and you got to start fighting, ball up your digits and start throwing a punch or two. And I'm glad to hear that you're taking this in a very positive direction. If someone wanted to get involved with the work that you're doing, there are a number of college campuses in our listening areas. What would they do?
Well, they could check us out on social media. We have chapters across the country. On Twitter, we are US4, the number 4, America. On our email is unitedstudentsforamerica@gmail.com. We have Instagram as well, United Students for America. On Facebook, we're all over. And we would love for people to get involved. I mean, the strength of our democracy is in the people. I mean, it's of, by, and for the people. So we need to get everyone involved, and we need everyone to get out to the polls. Even though we saw some of the highest turnout in 2020, we still didn't have as many people as we thought turn out. And that's obviously a problem. But as I said, I mean, America, the story of America is that we're always in the fight for a brighter future. And in times that are dark like this, we have to keep on pushing forward, because we see that opportune future, and we're not going to let it get away from us.
Yeah, and it comes back to that as you pointed out earlier, that direct engagement, that organizing, person to person. I have friends who are big digital strategists, and they have ideas on how things are done. I'm going, look, talking to somebody across a table, talking to somebody over a beer, that's still the best way to organize. It's still the best way.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, it's something we got to do more of. But Sina, I appreciate you taking some time for us. Keep up the great work. I hope you'll come back and give us some more information as it's going down the road.
Thank you so much, Rick. And once again, huge fan of your show. Thank you for the work you do, and thank you for always fighting for the working class people by spreading that good information.
Good stuff. Thanks, Sina. Sima Namazi, he's the national co-chair there of the United Students for America. Check out the website, votersoftomorrow.org. We'll get links out on social media how you can do that. Quick break, right back. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Come to talk.
Remembering that united we bargain, divided we beg. Rick Smith.